Imagine spending years sending thousands of people to their deaths, and then one morning being sent to yours by the very machine you helped build. This is not a metaphor. This is the story of Maximilien Robespierre. Born in 1758 in Arras, France, Maximilien Robespierre was a lawyer by trade. Precise, idealistic, and obsessed with virtue, he admired Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He believed in the radical equality of men. His fellow revolutionaries called him the Incorruptible, and at first the nickname seemed to fit. He lived humbly, dressed simply, and spoke with the fire of a true believer. When the revolution erupted in 1789, Robespierre was not just a participant, he became its moral compass, or so he claimed. He rose through the National Assembly, joined the radical Jacobin Club, and by 1793 he had secured a seat on the Committee of Public Safety, the 12-man body that effectively ran France. Power rarely reveals a man's true face gradually. Usually it does it all at once. By 1793, France was at war with Austria, Prussia, Britain, and itself. Counter-revolutionary uprisings were breaking out across the country, and Robespierre had the answer. Terror, terror, he declared, is nothing other than justice. With those words, he launched the Reign of Terror. The Revolutionary Tribunal became a conveyor belt of death. Suspects were arrested on whispers. Trials lasted minutes. The verdict was almost always the same. Between September 1793 and July 1794, 17,000 people were officially executed, and tens of thousands more died in prisons, in mass shootings, in the chaos of revolutionary justice. Among the victims, King Louis XVI, Marie Antoinette, the Girondins, moderate rivals Robespierre had systematically destroyed. Even his former friend and ally, Georges Danton, went to the blade after daring to suggest the terror had gone too far. Robespierre watched and signed the papers. The Incorruptible had become the Inexorable. By the summer of 1794, something had shifted. Robespierre had become paranoid, and paranoia is contagious. No one was safe. Not the left-wing Hebatists, who wanted more radical measures. Not the Dantonists, who wanted mercy. Not the moderates, not the radicals, not the generals. Paris whispered a single question behind closed doors. Who is next? Robespierre knew that fear, because he had planted it himself. Members of the National Convention, the same body that had cheered his speeches, began to sweat. They had blood on their own hands, too. They had voted for executions, and now they wondered, would Robespierre's eyes turn on them? As the saying goes, the revolution devours its own children. They were about to prove it. On July 26th, 1794, the 8th of Thermidor, year 2 in the revolutionary calendar, Robespierre delivered a speech to the convention. He spoke of enemies within, of traitors who needed to be exposed, but he refused to name them. That was his fatal mistake. Every deputy in that hall heard the speech and thought the same thing. He means me. Men who had survived by staying silent decided they could no longer afford to. That night, a conspiracy formed. Among its leaders, Paul Barras, Jean-Lambert Tallien, and Joseph Fouché, all former allies, all men who had carried out massacres in Robespierre's name, and all now terrified of the blade they had wielded. The next morning, 9 Thermidor, July 27th, 1794, they made their move. When Robespierre rose to speak in the convention on July 27th, the hall erupted. Deputies shouted him down. "Down with the tyrant!" They cried. For a man accustomed to silence and submission, it was incomprehensible. He was voted to be arrested on the spot, along with his younger brother Augustin and his close allies Saint-Just and Couthon. The Incorruptible, for the first time, was speechless. He was taken to the Hôtel de Ville, Paris's city hall, where his supporters, the Commune of Paris, offered him refuge and urged him to call the people to arms. He hesitated. He was still playing by the rules of a game that no longer existed. Then late at night, soldiers loyal to the convention broke in. During the chaos, accounts differ, Robespierre's jaw was shattered. Whether by a pistol shot, an attempt at suicide, or a soldier's bullet, no one is entirely sure. He was found on the floor, bleeding from the face, still alive. On the morning of July 28, 1794, Robespierre was taken to the same Place de la Révolution where, under his watch, thousands had died before him. The crowds that had once cheered him now jeered. A woman reportedly screamed at him, "You monster, go down to hell with the curses of every wife and mother." His bandaged jaw had been torn open to fit the guillotine's collar. Some accounts say he screamed when the bandage was ripped away. The blade fell. The crowd roared. The man who had sent 17,000 people to this same device had arrived at it himself, not as a judge, but as the condemned. In a single stroke, the revolution had consumed its most powerful architect. He was 35 years old. Historians have argued for centuries about Robespierre. Was he a monster, a true believer who took things too far, a symptom of a system that was already broken? Perhaps all three. But his death teaches us something remarkable about the nature of revolutions, and of power itself. Absolute idealism, when married to absolute power, becomes indistinguishable from tyranny. The men who killed Robespierre were not heroes. They were the same men who had helped him build the terror. They simply feared him enough to stop him. The revolution did not become more humane after Thermidor. It became different, more corrupt, more cynical. But the blade was quieter, and that, for Paris, in the summer of 1794, was enough. As you watch history unfold, remember this: the most dangerous man in any revolution is not the one who wants to destroy the old order. It's the one who is absolutely certain he knows what the new one should look like.